There comes a moment when your heart just gets tired, not angry, not bitter, just done. You stop over-explaining, over-giving, and over-trying.
And that silence, that calm distance is what finally makes him realize what he's lost, because the second you stop trying, he starts regretting. There's a certain kind of exhaustion that doesn't show on your face, but lives quietly in your heart. It's the exhaustion that comes from always being the one who cares more, the one who tries harder, the one who keeps the connection alive, while the other person takes it for granted. You spend so long proving your worth to someone who stopped noticing, hoping that if you just give a little more, they'll finally see you not for what you do, but for who you are. And then one day, something shifts, you stop chasing, you stop explaining, you stop performing for their affection. You don't send that message first, you don't try to fix the silence, you don't beg for clarity, you simply breathe. And in that quiet space, something powerful happens not to you, but to him, because when you stop proving your worth, he's forced to see it on his own. Your effort, your love, your patience they used to fill the silence so completely that he never had to face the reality of what you brought into his life. He thought your consistency was permanent, your effort endless, but when it suddenly disappears, he feels the absence like a cold wind. What he once ignored now echoes in every moment of stillness, the texts that don't come, the check-ins that stop. The warmth that fades, he starts to wonder where it went, but deep down he knows he let it slip away. You see, your effort was the mirror that reflected his comfort. As long as you were trying, he didn't have to. As long as you were showing up, he could afford to stay half present. It's not that he didn't care at all, it's that he never had to confront the reality of losing you. Your trying made him believe he was safe from consequence, but people always mistake effort for permanence. They assume that the one who loves deeply will never run out of love. What they don't realize is that love, even the most patient kind, dries up when it's poured into an empty cup for too long. When you stop trying, he doesn't just lose your attention, he loses his illusion of control, because effort has energy, and when that energy leaves, it leaves behind a void. That void is where his regret begins. Suddenly, he's reminded of the things he overlooked, the softness in your tone, the way you listened when no one else did, the warmth of your presence that he mistook for background comfort. It's in your absence that he starts to see your value clearly, maybe for the first time, and this is the irony: the more you tried, the less he saw. The moment you stop, he finally looks. It's human nature to wake up to what we've lost only after it's gone quiet. And that quiet, your quiet, becomes the most powerful statement you could ever make. It's not revenge. It's not manipulation. It's self-respect. You didn't stop trying to teach him a lesson. You stopped trying because you finally learned yours. You realize you don't need to perform to be loved. You don't need to chase what doesn't meet you halfway. You don't need to prove your worth to someone who was blind to it when it was right in front of them. Because your worth doesn't disappear when he stops seeing it. It shines brighter when you finally do. And while he's busy realizing what he lost, you're busy rediscovering what you never should have forgotten, that you were always enough, even when he couldn't see it. When you're the one who always shows up, it's easy for someone to mistake your presence as something guaranteed. They get used to your consistency, your warmth, the way you make them feel seen even when they give you so little in return. Your messages, your laughter, your care, they become part of the background noise of their life. They don't even notice how much lighter things feel because of you. But the day you stop trying, the day you step back and pull your energy away, is the day that silence hits them like a storm. Because your absence teaches them what your presence disguised. See, when you were around, your energy made everything seem okay. You were the calm in the chaos, the softness that balanced their rough edges, the voice that reassured them when life got loud. They didn't realize it was you creating that balance. They thought that peace just existed.
They didn't understand that it came from your effort, your emotional labor, your willingness to care even when you were tired. Your presence disguised their imbalance. You were the steady one, the thoughtful one, the one who noticed the little things and made sure love didn't die quietly. And because you did it so naturally, they never stopped to think that it might not always be there. But when you stop trying, the shift is undeniable. The texts slow down, the calls stop, the little check-ins that once filled their day suddenly vanish. There's no good morning, and no did you get home safe, and no warmth waiting for them after a bad day. And that's when the realization begins to creep in that all the emotional connection they thought just existed was actually something you built. That peace they felt when they were around you, it wasn't coincidence, it was your care. It was your love showing up in invisible ways. People don't miss your words, they miss how your words made them feel. They don't miss your presence, they miss the energy you brought with it. And that's the beauty of your absence, it reveals what your presence covered up. When you were there, your love made up for their lack. When you're gone, they're left face to face with the emptiness they created. It's like walking into a room where the music suddenly stops. Only then do they realize how much it filled the space. It's not that you were trying to prove anything by stepping away. It's that you finally got tired of filling all the gaps. You realized that love shouldn't be one-sided, that your effort can't carry two people forever, so you let go. Not in anger, not to make a point, but because you deserve to feel the same energy you give. And while you begin to feel peace, they start to feel panic. Because they finally see what your presence truly meant. It was the glue holding everything together. Regret doesn't come from losing you. It comes from realizing how deeply they underestimated your value while they still had you. Your absence becomes a mirror, showing them the reflection of what they failed to appreciate. They remember your laugh, your kindness, your understanding, but now it all lives in memory, not reality. And that's the hardest truth to face. So while he's sitting there, wondering how everything changed, you're already healing. You've stopped trying to make someone see your worth because you finally see it yourself. You don't need to remind him of what he lost. His own silence will do that. Your absence will speak louder than your effort ever did. And the peace you find in stepping back will always be louder than the regret that follows him forward. There's a painful truth that most people learn the hard way. You can't make someone appreciate you by trying harder. You can't love someone into awareness. You can't force someone to meet you where you are, no matter how pure your intentions are. And yet when you care deeply, you keep trying anyway. You think if you just explain yourself better, if you just give a little more, if you just show them what love really looks like, maybe then they'll finally get it. But the harder you try, the more they take your effort for granted, because effort, when it's one-sided, becomes invisible. The more you give, the less they value it, not because it's not worth anything, but because they never had to earn it. At some point, though, something inside you breaks, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, resolute way. You realize that all the effort in the world can't make someone ready to value what's in front of them. So you stop explaining, you stop initiating, you stop fighting for someone who doesn't even realize there's a battle to fight. And in that moment, everything shifts. The silence that follows your withdrawal starts to speak louder than all your words ever did. Because absence has a way of teaching lessons that presence never could. When you stop trying, you create space. And that space is powerful. It's where they finally have to sit with themselves, with their actions, their choices, their indifference. When you were trying, your love acted as a shield. It protected them from facing the consequences of their own neglect. But once you pull that shield away, reality sets in. They feel the emptiness. They feel the difference.
They feel what it's like to no longer be prioritized by the person who once made them feel like the center of the world. That's when regret begins. Regret doesn't come in the moment they lose you. It comes in the quiet aftermath when they realize you're not coming back with the same energy. They start remembering all the things they dismissed, the late night conversations they brushed off, the small acts of love they barely acknowledged, the moments when you tried to connect and they weren't present. Every memory that once felt ordinary now feels precious, because when effort leaves, so does comfort. And they finally realize that love doesn't sustain itself. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be mutual. You can't teach someone appreciation by overextending yourself. All that does is teach them that your love has no boundaries. But when you stop trying, you create contrast, and contrast breeds clarity. They begin to understand that your effort wasn't an obligation, it was a gift. And once that gift is gone, they see how empty everything feels without it. The things they took lightly now carry weight. The things they ignored now echo. The things they assumed would always be there now haunt them. And here's the beautiful part: when you stop trying, you don't lose your power, you reclaim it. Because trying endlessly keeps you stuck in a cycle of proving, while silence sets you free. It's not about revenge or manipulation, it's about peace. It's about realizing that the love you were giving away so freely deserves to be received by someone who knows its worth. The moment you stop chasing validation is the moment you become magnetic again, not because you want them back, but because you finally chose yourself. And while they're sitting there replaying everything, trying to figure out when it all changed, you've already moved on to a new chapter, one where love feels lighter, reciprocated, and real. That's the power of no longer trying. It doesn't just free you from disappointment, it teaches them what true effort looks like by showing them what life feels like without it. Love should never feel like a constant audition. But too often, we find ourselves performing in relationships, smiling when we're sad, staying quiet when we want to speak, pretending everything is okay just to keep the peace. We work so hard to be seen, to be valued, to be chosen, that we lose sight of who we actually are. We start to mold ourselves into what we think they want, rather than showing up as who we truly are. And the more we perform, the further we drift from our own truth. Because love that requires performance isn't love, it's survival. You tell yourself, if I can just be more patient, maybe he'll come around. If I'm more understanding, he'll finally see my worth. If I don't complain, he won't pull away. But here's what really happens. Every time you minimize yourself to protect the connection, you teach him that your silence is acceptance. You show him that he can give less, that your love will stretch to fill the empty spaces, and while you think you're saving the relationship, you're actually losing yourself piece by piece. Real love doesn't demand exhaustion. It doesn't make you question your value or force you to beg for effort. It doesn't require you to try harder just to be noticed. Love, when it's healthy, feels like ease, not the absence of problems, but the presence of mutual effort. When someone truly values you, they don't need you to perform to earn their affection. They see your heart, your softness, your honesty, and they cherish it without making you jump through hoops to prove it. But when you're constantly trying to keep someone interested, you're no longer in a relationship, you're in a pursuit. You're chasing a version of love that exists only when you're doing the most, while they do the least. And that's not connection, that's control. The truth is, when you're performing for someone's approval, you're telling yourself that your natural self isn't enough. You start thinking love is something to earn, not something to receive, and that's where the pain begins. The moment you stop performing, everything changes, the act falls away. You stop overanalyzing every word you say. You stop dressing your truth in careful tones just to keep them comfortable. You stop fighting to hold together something that falls apart the second you stop holding it. And it's in that space, that raw, unfiltered honesty, that the truth reveals itself. If he truly cares, he'll step forward. He'll meet you where you are, no performance needed. But if he doesn't, you'll see the connection fade.
And as painful as that is, it's also your freedom, because love that only exists when you're performing was never love at all. When you stop performing, you give yourself permission to exist authentically again. You begin to breathe differently. You rediscover your voice, your boundaries, your worth. You realize that being loved for who you really are is the only kind of love that lasts. And when you start showing up as your true self, the wrong people fall away, but the right ones finally find you. Because your authenticity is magnetic, your peace is powerful, your truth is enough, and for him, that's when regret begins. Not because you walked away, but because he finally sees what your love looked like when it wasn't filtered through trying. He realizes the woman he once knew was never a performance, she was a person. And now that she's done pretending, he's left with the silence his indifference created. So you stop performing, not to make him panic, but to give yourself back the life you dimmed to keep him comfortable. That's when you remember, real love doesn't demand a performance. It shows up, it listens, it stays. And when it doesn't, you walk away knowing you never needed to act to deserve to be loved. It's strange how regret works. It never arrives when you're crying, when you're begging for him to understand, when you're explaining what you need for the 100th time. Regret comes later, when your heart has already gone quiet, when your energy no longer reaches him, when the version of you that used to care so deeply has disappeared into calm. That's the moment he realizes what he's lost, because the regret always comes after the peace. In the beginning, he doesn't notice the shift. He's used to your attention, your texts, your concern. He assumes you'll always be there. When you first pull away, he mistakes it for a mood. He tells himself you'll come around, like you always do, but this time something's different. You don't chase. You don't explain. You don't fill the silence. You've finally chosen peace over proving a point, and that's when the panic starts to set in. Because he can feel the difference between a woman who's angry and a woman who's done. Anger still means there's emotion. Done means there's emptiness. Done means she's detached. And that's what terrifies him the most, the stillness that used to be filled with warmth. You see, peace is powerful because it doesn't need to make noise. When you finally reach that point of acceptance, you no longer react to his inconsistency. You don't fight for his attention because you've stopped seeing his absence as your fault. You've stopped trying to fix what broke you. You've stopped carrying the emotional weight of a relationship that only stood because you were holding it up. And EASILY, it came through nights of confusion, tears, and disappointment. It came through realizing that you can't force someone to love you properly. And now that you've reached it, there's no going back. For him, that peace is the moment regret is born. Because it's only when he can't feel your energy anymore that he starts to see how much of it he depended on. He remembers the way your presence softened everything. He remembers how your laughter filled the silence, how your understanding calmed his chaos, how your love made his world feel steady. But now that you're not trying anymore, the silence becomes deafening. The absence of your energy reveals how much space you actually held in his life. He starts replaying memories, wondering how he didn't notice your worth when it was right in front of him. And that's the cruel beauty of regret. It's always too late. It doesn't visit people while they still have the chance to change. It arrives when the opportunity is gone. He might try to reach out, to test if there's still a spark. But what he doesn't understand is that your peace has changed everything. The woman he once knew no longer exists. You've outgrown the pain, the waiting, the need to be understood. You've become someone who doesn't need his validation, someone who's learned that love shouldn't cost you your peace to keep it. His regret might be loud, but your peace is louder. You're not trying to make him feel bad, you're just finally protecting your energy. You've realized that sometimes silence is the most powerful closure you can give, because nothing teaches a person faster than the absence of what they took for granted. And while he's sitting with his regret, wondering how it all slipped away, you're busy rediscovering yourself, the parts of you that were buried beneath all the trying. That's the moment everything comes full circle. His regret becomes his burden, your peace becomes your freedom. You stop living in reaction to what he does or doesn't do, and start living in alignment with what you deserve. And maybe one day, he'll understand that the moment you stopped trying wasn't the moment he lost you, it was the moment you finally found yourself. There's something deeply freeing about the moment you stop trying to control how someone sees you, how they feel about you, or whether they regret losing you. It's the moment you take all that energy you've been giving away and pour it back into yourself, because his regret was never supposed to be your goal, your peace was. And when you stop trying, that's exactly what you find. The irony is, while he's busy replaying the past and realizing everything he lost, you're already living in the peace you once begged for. His regret becomes his teacher, and your calm becomes your reward. When you finally stop trying, it's not an act of giving up, it's an act of rising up. You're not quitting on love, you're quitting on exhaustion. You're stepping out of the loop of constant effort, confusion, and disappointment that used to define the connection. You've learned that love without mutual effort is just emotional labor disguised as hope, and hope without action from both sides turns into pain. The moment you recognize that, you start to see things clearly. You were never asking for too much, you were just asking the wrong person. His regret starts quietly. At first, he doesn't realize what's happening. He thinks you're just giving him space like before. But when your absence stretches longer than he expected, when the texts stop coming, when your energy doesn't reach him anymore, he starts to feel it. The peace you've found becomes a mirror to his chaos. You've moved on to something softer, something lighter, and he's left sitting in the noise of his own choices. Regret doesn't just come from losing someone. It comes from realizing you never valued them properly when they were right in front of you. That's his lesson. For you, peace doesn't come instantly. It's something you build moment by moment. You start by forgiving yourself for trying so hard, for staying too long, for believing his potential instead of his patterns. You stop replaying the what-ifs and start asking, what now? You start living again, not in response to what he did, but in alignment with what you deserve. And that shift, that internal calm, is your greatest victory. Because peace doesn't mean you've forgotten him. It means he no longer controls the way you feel. It means you can think about the past without wanting to go back. The beauty of letting go is that it gives both of you a mirror. You get to see your strength and he gets to see his mistake, but the difference is you move forward with your lesson while he's stuck repeating his. Regret has a way of following people who took love for granted. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the places where your laughter used to echo, in the routines that feel emptier without you. And while that's his emotional consequence, it's not your responsibility anymore. You've learned that peace doesn't need an apology to exist, it just needs distance. So you stop checking if he's thinking about you, if he's sorry, if he's missing you, because those answers don't matter anymore. What matters is how you feel when you wake up lighter, calmer, more grounded. You start to enjoy your own company again, to rebuild the parts of yourself that were neglected while you were busy proving your worth. That's your reward, the version of you that no longer needs external validation to feel whole. And while his regret may come in waves, your peace stays constant. Because the truth is, his regret was never your victory, it was the natural outcome of his choices. Your real victory is that you're finally free, free from waiting, from worrying, from needing anything that isn't given willingly.
You've reclaimed your power, your softness, your joy, and that's something no amount of his regret can ever touch.
In the end, his regret isn't your responsibility, it's just the echo of what he failed to cherish.
You don't need to chase closure or wonder if he finally understands your worth, because you've already won the moment you stopped trying and chose peace instead.
His lesson is regret, yours is freedom.